YouTube! Welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2, where we're going to be bringing you to an online battle with the High Elves, and I'm going to be taking on the emotional, edgy Dark Elves, led by Malekith. I brought an infantry, kind of an infantry heavy army, kind of not. I've got Forlathern Sea Guard in the back. You can see them here. I'm going to slow the camera speed down so y'all can get a bit of a cinematic here. I've got two Dragon Princes. Teclis is my lord. And the High Elves on the other side. Oh, hang on. There it goes. Gotta learn my controls here. So the Dark Elves, sorry, on the other side, have these Harganeth Executioners. You can see the majority of their army, or I say the majority, there's 3 of these Executioners, so that's going to be tough to take out. He does have 2 Dark Shards with shields. He's got Witch Elves, which can be problematic. He's got 2 Cold One Spear Riders. Immediately when I chose this army, I didn't really think a whole lot about my opponent bringing... sorry, give me just a second. I didn't consider my opponent bringing Harganeth Executioners, which I don't know why. I should have thought about. So I like my build at the moment. I just wish that I would have switched it out for the Dark Elves, that I would have switched out the Phoenix Guard for Swordmasters of Hoeth, because they trade very nicely with Executioners, and my Phoenix Guard will not trade so nicely with the Executioners, and my opponent's done well so far. 2 nice spells from Malekith has netted him a lot of damage. My 4 Sea Guard will cause tremendous damage to his Executioners, but I don't have a lot of great targets for my cavalry right now. And I should have just pulled both cavalry units back, but one unit I decided to take forward. I'm going to net Malekith and give him a little bit of hits here from my archers. And I'm going to go ahead and take some engagement here. I was thinking this was a Blackheart Corsair, so poor scouting is going to get my Dragon Princess killed here. So that was a huge mistake. Yeah, I should have pulled my Dragon Prince back and held it on the flank and just let my infantry fight. My infantry probably wouldn't have won, but as you can see over here, I'm cleaning up this flank because his Cold One Knights are going to get overwhelmed by spears and Dragon Princes. Another Blade Wind. This one won't work quite as well. I'm trying to get rid of his Dark Shards here, but at this point, I do take out 1 Executioner. That was the one that my archers had given so much trouble to. So far not great though, because I lose a Phoenix Guard over here. And my archers are going to be open to being attacked. So we cleaned up 1 flank, but on this flank, because I left his cavalry untouched and didn't pull back my Dragon Princes, now I can't really defend my archers, which otherwise might have been able to win me this game. See, if I had my Dragon Princes here, they'd be able to hit this Executioner and buy my archers time to shoot it. Meanwhile, Malekith ends up in not a fantastic engagement for him out here, because he's going to get hit by Dragon Princes and Spearmen at the same time. It won't kill him instantly, but it's definitely not an engagement that he wants to be in for a prolonged period of time. So at this point, I'm trying to keep my archers alive, trying to keep my Phoenix Guard alive, doing anything I can to try and stay in this battle, but I think my mistakes have caught up with me here. I've got a Cold One Knights that I can't deal with. Malekith's going to get away, and I'm still busy out here getting rid of these other Cold One Knights. I'm going to net this Cold One Knight just to keep it away from the fight for a moment while I'm trying to deal with this other Executioner, but it's not easy at this point. And I have a Witch Elf, or a Blackheart Corsair approaching my flank. That's why I got confused in the battle. I got to remember the Witch Elves have like this shorter dagger-like look to their banner there. If I just remember that, it'd be good. Going to get rid of these Dark Shards, and then I want to try and get rid of this Cold One Knight, but I'm running low on units. I'm going to try and use some Doomflock here to see if I can pull down a few of his Executioners. Nothing doing at this point. I don't have enough units to protect my archers. And now my Lothern Sea Guard are going to die, so this is why my cavalry should have been kept back in reserve and only taken the fight as needed and just used my archers to cause as much damage as possible while the melee fight was going on. But I think swapping the Phoenix Guard for Swordmasters would have actually pretty easily turned this battle in my favor, because the Swordmasters will defeat the Executioners as long as their martial prowess is intact and they get a charge. And then at that point, my opponent would have lost the main piece of his infantry, would not have been able to kill my Lothern Sea Guard, and I would have been fine. So if I try this army again, I'm going to replace the Phoenix Guard with sword masters if I'm going to fight the Dark Elves. I think the Phoenix Guard would be a better pick if you were up against a faction that didn't have as capable of infantry as the Dark Elves do, because their infantry is actually pretty capable, and they're able to defeat something like this. So, good game to my opponent. Let's watch his guys chop me up here as they've defeated me. So it was a valiant defeat. It was not a super close battle, but he didn't have a ton of men left when it was over. But yeah, so it's definitely a clear defeat. It was these two executioners. May not look like a whole lot on the paper there where it said valiant defeat, but that's a lot left. So again, switch these guys out, and I think I probably could have been able to turn that around. Mistake with the cavalry did not help either, so should have been more careful there. Did get to play another battle though, so this time I got to go up against the Lizardmen. And I was trying to think like what the weakness of the Lizardmen would be against the High Elves. Like if I bring a bunch of artillery and archers, it can sometimes play into the Lizardmen's favor because they have chameleon skinks, they have all these dinosaurs that can move around and break through lines. And it's like if I bring units that feed those units, then I'd be playing to a strength. Plus the map was very terrain laden. So let me slow down the camera again so we can get you a nice cinematic view. This time I'm going to have Swordmasters of Hoeth, 4 of them leading up the main, or yeah, no, I think it's 3 of them. And then I've got 3 Phoenix Guard in reserve, and I've got 5 Spearmen. So I've brought no missile units whatsoever. I've brought Techless again. And the goal here is that I'm just going to throw so much elite infantry at my opponent that he can't overcome it. Now up front, he's got a couple of Saurus Warriors, a couple of Saurus Spears, 2 Feral Bastillodons, a Slan Mage High, and a Scar Veteran. He's got on the flanks some Cold One Riders. And you can see here the battle's going to get underway, and my Sword Masters are going to absolutely lay waste to his Saurus Warriors. Saurus Warriors are a very good unit, but they cannot take this kind of fight. It's not meant for him. I'm going to net his Bastillodon and get it engaged with the Phoenix Guard. And you can see that everywhere where his Bastillodons go, I'm following up with Phoenix Guard. They can be microed away, but it takes work on the part of my opponent to do that. Now here he's going to use this fiery convocation, and he does get one of my Swordmaster units and causes some decent damage to it. It must have been the upgraded version, so I gotta watch out. My opponent does have some nice magic on this Mage Priest, including a banishment, so I'm gonna have to be careful. But Techless is just kind of sitting back using his magic, and he's gonna get attacked by the Scar Veteran. Fortunately, I've got these spears here. I should be able to escape with Techless, but he's gonna take a big hit from that Scar Veteran. I'm going to bring units in to help out Techless. I don't have any large units, so it will be hard to block that guy, but I should have enough infantry that I can do it. I'm chasing his Lord with some Swordmasters, and again, his Bastillodons are bogged down. On the flank, actually, way out over here, I managed to catch his Spear Riders, and he wasn't able to micro them away. And you can see in the center, we've torn him up. Here I'm going to use the net to tie down the Scar Veteran, even though it doesn't work because his animations are still moving him around. And even though my opponent has this cavalry, Cold One Riders are just not going to be effective against Executioners, Spearmen, or sorry, Swordmasters, Spearmen, and Phoenix Guard. It's just not going to happen. And what I'm trying to do here is bottle my opponent up, and then he calls me right here with a banishment. Ouch. Super ouch. He does quite a bit of damage to these units that are in here, but fortunately I was holding units in reserve. There's 2 Phoenix Guard back here in reserve, another Phoenix Guard fighting over here, so I'm still in good shape. That was an excellent play by my opponent with the Slan Mage. Got a bunch of kills, but now he should be running low on magic, and I'm hoping my infantry can just wear him down. So my strategy here was just to pick an army that would make it more challenging for my opponent to defeat than it was for me to have to use that army to defeat him, right? So if I brought all this heavy infantry, your typical actually dodged this fiery convocation. So fortunately for me, because I knew my opponent might be doing that. I learned my lesson when I got hit by that banishment, so I was keeping an eye out. But yeah, so my opponent, I brought this army because I knew it would take a very special ability to micro and spells and everything else to defeat what I brought, whereas I would be able to not have to worry about the micro in every single engagement here because You know, when it comes to an infantry fight, my infantry was going to win. When it comes to his dinosaurs, he has to watch out for Phoenix Guard, whereas my Phoenix Guard will win if that fight continues. So again, this was more of a play for me to make it harder on my opponent to win. Now, you can do that as a strategy in Total War. Some people think it's lame because they're like, oh, you just won because of your pick. Well, yeah, you can win in this game because of pick. And in this case, the pick did win because my opponent wasn't likely to have brought... Look at that Swordmaster getting tossed around in the background by that big toad. Yeah, so in this case, my opponent, I just figured he wouldn't have the right army to deal with 6 elite infantry units. Dinosaurs can be good against infantry. That's a lot of infantry to deal with. It's a whole lot. If he had brought a bunch of chameleon skinks, that could have been bad because I had no way to chase them. But again, I brought a bunch of cheap spearmen with the idea that I have throwaway units in case I have to throw away a unit. But I mean, at 500 gold, High Elf Spearman's actually a pretty solid unit. It can do some really good work at a relatively low cost because of martial prowess and decent armor, big shield, defense. So yeah, lizardmen definitely have a lot of power with their monsters, the big dinosaurs. And Saurus warriors are really good against unarmored infantry. But the Dark Elves and the High Elves, in my opinion, pose a huge threat to the lizardmen whenever they bring some of that elite infantry, because the lizardmen can, like in this case, get caught off guard with an army that would definitely have been much more threatening to me had I come archer heavy. Archers aren't bad against the lizardmen, but they're not great against armor, right? And so that's why I didn't bring them. So I was trying to bring something a little different. Plus the map wasn't good for me to bring Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, which are another unit that I feel like the High Elves can use. And then with Techless, I'm able to control the battlefield a little if I need to use a net on a key unit to hold it for my Phoenix Guard. I can use Doomflock, I can use Regrowth. Just kind of gives me the ability to control certain pieces of the battlefield if necessary. Very, very weak if he gets into melee, but allows me to save money from a Lord and a Mage all in one that's relatively cheap and spend more money on some devastating infantry. And in this case, my opponent's army just was not big enough to overcome what I brought here. You can see how decisively these Swordmasters defeated the enemy infantry. But anyway, good games. Congrats to my opponent. The first one definitely beat me down. And then thanks to Zebers. He said he was a viewer here, so thank you for being an awesome viewer, and thanks for a fun battle. Hope you all enjoyed this tonight. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will be back with more soon.